Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this week's Culture Report. I'm Jamal Simon.
I'm Laura Casillas.
I'm DeMarco Randall.
And I'm Antonia Velez.
All right, today we have a whole lot to get into, and we have
A full house.
A full house. We got a lot of special guests, y'all. You know, and the show is growing. We're still growing, so we don't have quite enough chairs.
Not enough space for me.
So DeMarco he has volunteered to sit one of the conversations out. So we really appreciate you for volunteering as tribute.
Y'all better hold it down.
But he'll be back. Don't worry. Don't worry. All right, let's hop into it.
Denver is about to have its very first women's sports bar. The 99ers bar, named after the U.S. women's soccer team that won the World Cup in 1999, will make showing women's sports its main focus. It'll join cities like Seattle and New York in a relatively new wave of bars centered around women's sports. Now, this wave comes as interest in women's sports continues to grow. Just last week, more people watched the women's NCAA title game than the men's championship for the first time. An average of 18.9 million people watched South Carolina win. But even with the growing interest, there are still a lot of inequities between men's and women's sports. Despite being the #1 draft pick in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark will earn $338,000 over 4 years. Her first-year base salary is just over $76,000. For comparison, the #1 pick in last year's NBA draft secured a $55 million contract with $12.1 million in his first season. Now, today we've brought in 9 News Prep sports reporter Ashley Moore to weigh in. Ashley, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And we can't start this conversation without addressing the
Pay gap.
the massive pay gap for Caitlin Clark. Like that
was rough. When I read it, I thought it was a typo.
No, that is crazy to me.
No.
Were you surprised, Ashley? What was your
Not at
reaction?
all.
Is this common?
Oh, this is very common. The thing is, around the pandemic time, the women in the WNBA have actually been talking about the pay disparities. And the only reason why it's so big now is because Caitlin Clark's now in the WNBA, and now we're getting to see how much they actually get paid. But this is very normal. This is the top WNBA player gets paid $250,000 a year.
Wow.
The top WNBA player.
That's
Do you think
insane.
actually that could be somewhat discouraging for some of the young women that are, trying to go into these sports?
Yes and no, because Caitlin Clark specifically, she could have went to college another year, the 5th year COVID option, but she didn't. She chose to go to WNBA because she's seeing what she's doing in college, and she wants to push that to the WNBA. Yeah. You have to be a part of the change. Caitlin Clark is obviously a part of the change. Clearly, you mentioned they had more viewers than the boys' game.
Yeah.
You have to be a part of the change. You see Caitlin Clark doing it. You have to be, the next generation, and I think it's in good hands with the next generation.
I'm not even like a big sports person either. I don't watch basketball, I tell you that much. But I knew who Caitlin Clark was when all this was happening. I'm like, oh my God, she was everywhere.
Yeah.
It's insane. So they definitely have the audience out there that wants to watch all these games. So
Totally. And so bringing it back to this bar, like, what do you think, in your opinion, like, what will this bar that centers around women's sports, like the women's sports are the default, not men's sports. How is this going to change kind of the environment of like the attention that's given to women's sports in Denver?
I think it's going to help push the narrative, because the thing with the WNBA was they weren't getting the television time. They weren't getting the national television time. Then they started getting national television time, and the ratings were going up and up. This is Caitlin Clark being in college, not in the WNBA. So alone, ratings were up. So more exposure, like these bars, it's just going to help more viewership, because you talked about, World Cup, the women's team. Women's team is better than the men's team.
Yeah.
So
Sorry to break it to
a
y'all.
lawsuit too to get equal pay as the men. And I'm like, they're playing the same exact sport.
Right. And if I walked into a bar, I would want to see the women's team over the men's team.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So we need bars like this.
Exactly, yeah. I'm kind of surprised that this is the first bar, but honestly, I'm happy that it's happening, like the first bar in Denver, that is, that centers around women's sports. But we know that you focus on prep sports. So kind of going back to DeMarco's question, how do you think this is going to impact like young women who are in sports in Denver, like seeing like, wow, like Denver appreciates women's sports so much that we've now opened a space like this? Like,
oh, absolutely. The high school players coming from Denver, going into college and professional levels, crazy talented. You have Lauren Betts at UCLA. She was one of the best college players this year. You have Reagan Beers at Oregon State. She's also from Denver, was one of the best college players this year. One of the girls, she's a sophomore, Brianna Crittenton, broke the record for first player to reach 1,000 points, male or female. And she's a girl playing basketball at Riverdale Ridge High School here in Denver. So the future's bright for the girls here. They can ball in any sport. Flag football, girls flag football has come. We're hoping it's going to be a sanctioned sport. But I mean, the Caitlin Clark effect is around every sport, around every level. And now everybody's getting more involved in some women's sports. And especially with NIL now, you don't have to be a professional to make money. So it's just getting bigger and bigger.
And the owners of the 99ers bar are two local queer women who told Denverite they hope to also create a safe space for the LGBTQ plus community. And the pair hope to open the bar sometime in June.
Brilliant.
Hey, drinks on Jamal, y'all.
That's funny. That's funny. Beat me in a game of basketball, and then we could actually don't do that.
was about
She
to say,
said she likes
easy.
to be breaking ankles, and I don't have time for that.
She has been saying that.
Easy.
I think we need to get a tournament set
We'll
up.
put it to the test.
And a new movie, The Long Game, tells the true story of 5 Mexican-American teens who became high school golf state champions in spite of segregation. The students were all caddies at an all-exclusive, all-white golf club in Texas. There, they fell in love with the sport, but were not allowed to play. A Mexican-American war veteran and the new school district superintendent was denied membership from the same club because of his ethnicity. He helps the teens form the first golf team at their school, playing on a makeshift course in a nearby field. They ended up winning the state championship. The story is important because it shows viewers that there are many types of Americans, and it's also about trying to fit in. Jay Hernandez, who plays the coach, described the scene from the movie where the young golfers go to Mexico as Mexican Americans. They're not recognized there as full Mexicans, but in the U.S., they are not seen as full Americans either.
Wow.
The identity part is, I think, one that some of us can relate to.
Absolutely, yeah. I think especially for me, I'm from Colombia, I grew up there, my family lives there. I am known as the gringa friend in my friend group. For those who don't know what that is, for some reason, it just means like a US citizen or a person from the US. But then here, you know, I've always kind of dealt with or felt like I could fit in better if I had grown up here and I was like, you know, I'd gotten an education here and I spent all my life here. So yeah, I definitely think that there's this like weird balance of like of trying to fit in, and even in the places where you grew up in, when you have like two identities that you're juggling all the time.
I think what's most interesting about like this story about this group of golfers or former caddies, because I used to be a caddy myself, not the funnest thing, but not the worst thing either. But kind of that identity crisis of like being in these places, but do you really belong in them? And I don't know, I kind of found myself with that, like being at these country clubs, like I don't belong here. Like, hello, like what am I doing?
I feel like that's why, like, I mean, I commend them because I know that's hard to do. It's like be in a space like that. And it's like you see all the people around you and you're like, oh, clearly I'm not supposed to be here. But they were like, says who?
Well, and that's the thing that is so inspiring about them too, is that in spite of that, they learned and fell in love with this game despite no one else around them looking like them almost.
Absolutely.
You
And
know?
I think that's also a good representation in these movies, because a lot of movies that portray Latino characters, they're always like border stories or criminal stories. To see like astronauts and, you know, golfers in these stories is amazing. And if you guys know anything about like 50s history, just a little history recap here, but Mexican Americans weren't better off than like African Americans when it came to like things that they could access and rights. You know, so a lot of these stories, you know, go back with racism, you know, but I think with the identity part, I also have been, you know, in Mexico, and they see me as like an outsider, and then I'm here, and then they're like, where are you from? Like, I'm never from here, or I'm never from there. It's always like, you're never enough of that.
Ni de aquí, ni de allá.
Exactly, and it's really, really hard. And then also, like, especially if you don't speak the language, from like where your roots are from, there's also a lot of shame in that. So that's also a big part of like sometimes instead of encouraging people to want to connect with the roots, it discourages them.
Yeah.
And also, like, in my experience too, like not being exactly fluent in Spanish, but trying to speak Spanish sometimes and then having that fear of being made fun of. Like it's real sometimes, but
We should be encouraging more people, embracing that and just,
Encourage.
encourage. I love that.
Don't shame. Do not shame. Encourage.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the issue.
Absolutely.
And it's Black Maternal Health Week, and studies have found that there is a big difference among women who are having babies. So Black mothers often have a very different experience than white moms, and even have a higher risk of death. The CDC wanted to know why. So they tracked inequalities in Black maternal health care over the last 7 years and found that structural racism, unconscious bias, and healthcare access play a big part in disparities between Black and white moms. Colorado doula Iman Ennis says change can begin by shedding light on these issues outside of birthing places.
And we talk about it amongst ourselves and stuff, but it's something, there's a power in documenting these type of things. While the accountability is not there that it should be in the medical field, we have to start somewhere.
Iman has also taken her passions in Black maternal health care and put them into a nonprofit called Maternal. She hopes to create spaces where she can educate Black women and doulas on getting medical treatment they deserve.
And speaking of health, nearly 2 years since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and as states continue to restrict access to abortions, the number of people seeking permanent contraception, such as getting vasectomies or their tubes tied, has grown significantly in the United States. Now that's according to a study published in the JAMA Health Forum. Dr. Dawn Owens-Robinson, a Colorado-based OBGYN, says this spike happened quickly after the Supreme Court's decision.
Definitely seen an increase. I was in Michigan at the time, and there was a tremendous number of increases in people desiring and wanting sterilization as fast as possible because they did not want themselves in a predicament that could put their life in danger.
Now, the study found that both vasectomies and tube tying procedures have notably increased in adults ages 18 to 30. And Owens-Robinson says, although the urgency to get these operations might have died down since Roe v. Wade was overturned, demand for them has not.
Right now, the Rocky Mountain chapter of the NAACP is calling for a boycott of Westward, which is a media publication based in Denver. They published an article about youth gun violence along with this illustration created for the story that seemingly depicted a Black boy with a gun in his backpack. They've since made edits to the boy's hair on their website, making his race more ambiguous, but the original photo is still up on their Instagram. So Westward has since replaced that image and apologized, saying in a post to their Instagram account, quote, "Our concept was to use a figure of a young boy not tied to any specific race, but the final version clearly did not accomplish that. This illustration was an ignorant miss from the start, and I deeply regret allowing it to proceed." So Westward's initial decision to use a photo that depicts a person of color in relation to an issue that impacts every race is harmful and perpetuates stereotypes that people work tirelessly to combat. However, it would be a disservice to not address the bigger issue at hand, which is the reality of youth and communities of color being impacted by gun violence at a disproportionate rate. So according to the CDC, Black people are 7 times more likely to die by gun homicide than white people in Colorado, compared to 10 times nationwide. So nationally, the gun homicide rate among Black people increased 49% from 2019 to 2021, more than any other racial group. And when it comes to youth, a study by Johns Hopkins University shows that Black kids aged 14 and under are 11 times more likely to die by gun violence than their white peers, but significantly increases to 26 times more for people ages 15 to 24. So this week, we're joined by Tiandis, Coach I, and Jason to talk more about why we're seeing these numbers spike like this and what's being done to help. So first, if any of you guys know, like you guys have experience with youth, so what do you think is driving all of this violence first off?
What I think is obviously it's the culture. And sometimes it stems and it can root from family, it can root from influences. So, I mean, violence ranges from all different ages. It's not just our youth, but I think there's a lot of different factors that plays into it. So we can't really pinpoint, what is what. So that's just the way that I see it.
And I piggyback off of that. I believe you have a culture of video games that they grow up in that snatch people out of cars, and they've turned video game into real life. There's family structure issues, right? There's drug issues, right? And the main part of it to me is the lack of education of guns.
I think, when we look at what's going on with these kids, everything they ingest has violent images in it. Everything they read, the music they listen to, sometimes what happens in their own neighborhoods or their own homes, they're getting violence. So when we look at these kids and they do something violent, this is what they take in. So we have to do a better job of limiting these images, this music, these movies that these kids are all watching, they're all listening to, and sometimes they're all going through in their own, personal lives, and that's why these kids are ending up, being violent. When we talk about the Westward cover, I'm in the minority. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I think it spoke the truth and what's going on in our community. Me, Coach I, and now Tiandis, we're dealing with this on a daily basis. We go to schools and we've encountered kids with guns in their backpacks. And, I tell a story all the time when me and Coach I were at a school in Green Valley, and he knew some kids, some youth that were walking into the school, and we were walking out, gave a kid a hug, felt the gun in the backpack. Hey man, you got to take that out of here. Like, they're going to search your backpack. So this is something that's happening repeatedly every day at schools in our community. So we have to start to be honest with ourselves. And there's a level of accountability that we have to take as a community when we talk about violence and what's happening with our youth.
When it comes to the kids facing consequences, is it more beneficial to have stricter consequences or have programs like Struggle of Love jump in and either steer them away from these consequences, help them get through it without actually going through the criminal courts?
It becomes to the level of consequence, right? Okay, so programs like Struggle of Love and all the other programs that we have in our community, we have multiple programs in our community that I can mention and go on and on and on about that do beautiful work out here constantly on a daily basis, 24 hours, 7 days a week. But for me, and this is just Coach I's opinion, we have gotten too soft. So there was a time when I was younger and we were protesting. We're giving too much time. You sending everybody to jail for too much time. So that's what they did. They said, okay, we're gonna lean up. And now you have kids out here with 4 or 5 gun cases. 4 or 5, they have 4 or 5 armed robbery cases. They have stolen car cases. This is all one child, okay? This is all one child. Now, when do we stop and say, okay, this is just out of control?
I know you have some upcoming events. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what those are, or what kind of the organization offers to the community? Well,
we do a lot of different things in the community. One of the things that we'll be doing is for Youth Violence Prevention Week. So April 27th at Struggle Love headquarters, 12,000 East 47th Avenue, we'll be having a jam with all kinds of different organizations, a youth peace jam. So Struggle of Love, Macam, Homies Unitos, Lifeline, all these organizations that we work with will be contributing to just to this community event to raise awareness, to let people know that we are out here and we're all about these kids and getting them to the places that they need to be.
Yeah. Plug one more event. It's our annual Father's Day Reach for Peace picnic, okay? This is our 18th year doing it. Please come out. It's on Father's Day, 12 to 5. We have carnival rides. We have free food for everybody, and all our booth partners will be out there giving giveaways and stuff like that. That is on Father's Day coming up. That is our 18th annual one coming up this year. So if you can, please come out, eat some free food. We give out Father of the Year awards and stuff like that, try to honor some fathers that's in our community. And then the 27th is a big it's going to be a big, like, little mini concert in the parking lot. If you can come out then, please come out and support. Just to do a couple more plugs, we have a Sacks of Love food program that we do 5 days a week. You can come out if people need food for that and stuff like that. But as far as the violence, you know, we have an awesome team that shows up to the shootings. These are part of some of the responders on our team. And if we can do conflict resolution, they will start those proceedings. And they also provide grief support to the families through our mental health team and stuff like that. So if you have any of those violent kind of issues and need conflict resolution, please let us know. Reach out and we'll try to do the best we can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us
No, no
today.
problem at all.
No, thank you.
And for the work that you guys do.
No, thank you for having us, and thank you for highlighting some of the things that are
Yes.
going on in our community. 'Cause
Yes.
It's really important that news stations really get in and talk to some of the organizations that are doing
Yes.
some of the work out here. So
No,
thank
we
you guys for
appreciate
having
that.
us.
No, thank you.
All right, and legislators in Colorado have advanced the state's most far-reaching gun control bill yet. In a 35-27 vote, the state's Democrat-heavy House passed a bill that would ban the manufacture, sale, and transfer of so-called assault weapons, which include 50 caliber rifles or semi-automatic firearms with detachable magazines and modifications such as pistol grips or muzzle brakes. With that being said, though, chances of this bill also passing in the Senate are lower. That's because despite the fact that both the House and the Senate are Democratic-led, the House has a bigger Democratic majority, and more of those seats are filled with far left-leaning folks. Still, the bill's success so far is significant. This is the first time the Colorado House has passed a bill like this, after a similar one died in committee last year. And if the bill is passed in the Senate, Colorado would be one of just 10 states to have prohibitions on semi-automatic guns. And last year, Colorado Governor Jared Polis signed other, less far-reaching gun control bills into law a few months after a shooting at an LGBTQ+ nightclub killed 5 people in Colorado Springs.
The YWCA of Boulder County hosted its first ever Women's Empowerment Day in Denver this week. About 40 high school and college women went to the Capitol to meet with legislators and talk about bills that are important to them. Those bills focused on racial justice, health, safety, affordable childcare, and economic advancement and empowerment for women and girls. For some of them, it was the first time talking to their representatives and their first visit to the Capitol. The goal was to introduce the young women into the civic engagement process and support them to become future advocates. The CEO of the YWCA, Debbie Pope, says advocacy is not just about a day at the Capitol, but showing how powerful a collective can be. I love this. I love it because it's so important to have these girls taught so young, not just young women, I mean young men too, of course, but just to put them out there and actually like be a part of it and understand how these laws affect them and their communities. I think it's so important.
Absolutely.
And to the point that you had brought up in our meeting, that they don't have as much representation as men do. Like these young women going into these legislative offices, like they're gonna get experience that they might not ever get before, or see someone who looks like them and be inspired to, you know, go into that type of field.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially starting at such a young age. I know it wasn't necessarily a program, but I know I was able to go and speak to some of our representatives. We I'm from Houston, so we skipped the Texas Capitol. We went straight to DC, and we all were told to like draft out all these like proposals or something to let them know like, okay, what's one thing you want to change? And we drafted it out like a step by step. And they're like, now we're going to DC, and we actually met with like Sheila Jackson Lee. We were supposed to meet with Ted Cruz. That didn't happen. He was busy, had lunch. But and yeah, it was just really cool to see like, oh, okay, like we have access to these people. That's what they're here for, to listen to what we have to say. You might not have direct access, but just letting them know like, hey, this is what these people are here for. You have a voice too. Yeah. You can use it.
Of course, and they're going to be like our future leaders. They're going to run this country. I think another part that's concerning to me when it comes to education and civics is it's also, as we're learning, you know, really young, even the population now, a 2020 national survey found that a quarter of Americans still don't know like their legislative and all these branches of government, executive and judicial.
Surprise, though?
I mean, it's concerning. It's concerning.
It's concerning, but is that a surprise?
I mean,
I feel like politics seems daunting to people these days, or like not daunting, it's scary. It's like something that's so hard to comprehend, and it's
That's
often
fair.
so serious.
I learned that in Colombia. The U.S. ones.
Oh.
Anyway, I just
Be civically engaged. Like,
yeah,
the
I
importance
just
of
think
that.
totally. I just think the importance of this is, like we said, just kind of like furthering this education, and also not just educating them on like making them aware of the issues that, you know, exist in the world, but also giving them the tools to kind of generate change, or see people who have those tools and how they're using them. And like you said, DeMarco, representation is everything. I think seeing that they look like the people who have those tools makes them think that, you know, maybe I one day could be sitting in this seat and creating change.
It makes
need
it
more women.
obtainable. It makes it obtainable for sure.
Totally. Absolutely.
Well, we need more women, so yay to that
More
program.
women.
More women.
All right, guys, let's hop into this week's good news. A brewery in Colorado that employs adults of all abilities and prides itself on inclusivity needs your help to secure a new grant. Brewability Lab was created to help people with intellectual and developmental disabilities obtain meaningful employment. Their space is fully accessible from the front door to the bathrooms. The brewery is now in the running for a $60,000 small business grant from Barclays. They are asking people to vote online at barclays.com to help secure the grant. Voting is open until Friday, April 19th.
All right, and some more local good news. The University of Denver, my alma mater, by the way, is breaking records. The DU men's hockey team beat Boston College in the national championship game last weekend, earning its 10th NCAA national title. Now that's the most earned by any college program in history.
And a tech startup is making it easier for people who experience low vision or blindness to watch sports. On-Court teamed up with the Portland Trail Blazers and some local nonprofits to give people an opportunity to test out the cutting-edge technology. It works by translating live gameplay into trackable vibrations so fans can experience live sports literally through their fingertips.
It's cool. And this Pussycat doll was made for the stage. Nicole Scherzinger won Best Actress in a Musical at this year's Olivier Awards, which is the highest honor in British theater. British people don't come for me, I'm sorry. It was for her role as Norma Desmond in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard. She thanks her family back in Hawaii for getting her this far. And if you want to check out the show, The Revival, you won't have to cross the pond. The show is headed to Broadway this fall.
That is so exciting.
I know we love Nicole Scherzinger and the Pussycat Dolls. We love them both.
We do.
But
Iconic.
honestly, I should have my good news of the week is Ashley Moore. We've been trying to get her on here for so long. I've been trying to get her.
debuted
I've been outside of her
finally.
apartment knocking on her door.
That is not true.
I had to go
thought-
track her down, too.
Yeah, if y'all put sports on here, I'll show up.
But who's
Then we'll
talking
do
about-
it more. Good to know, because we'll do it more.
Thank you.
Yes, if you guys have a hankering for sports, I guess we can figure it
I'll
out.
learn
DU
that.
hockey. Shout out to
Yeah,
DU hockey.
shout out,
You
shout
know, 10th.
Hockey.
Storybook. Let's see. See.
The thing is, I know nothing about sports, but it's exciting to see all these wins. Like, that's major. So good for them.
Oh,
Really
I think
woman
it's
wins.
huge.
Yeah,
The one court device, that's going to be awesome.
Oh
for
yeah,
us.
that's amazing.
yeah.
Feeling it through your fingertips.
That's
right?
really
Making
cool.
sports more accessible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Technology, I love it.
So, okay,
that.
awesome, lovely. Thank you so much for joining this week's Culture
Thank
Report.
you.
And you too. We'll be back to continue the conversation next Thursday right here on our free 9 News Plus app and 9news.com.